Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Breaking the Barrier podcast. I'm Andrew.
I'm Zach. Welcome to the fifth time that we tried to start this podcast. Not
I
that you'll
was,
see any of that through
yeah, I
the
was going to
magic of
mention that.
editing.
That was just weird. I kind of wish I had recorded that for YouTube, but at the same time, we couldn't record that for YouTube because that was part of the technical difficulties.
That was some funny behind the scenes stuff that no one will see as we just got more and more frustrated. And
It's
then
only
I just
been,
left for 10 minutes apparently as well.
yeah, well, that was a good time. I mean, look, it's only been 88 episodes. Maybe one day we'll get it right.
Yeah, that's when we'll know we can retire, folks. And that's when all the sponsorship bucks will start rolling in as well because we'll have nailed it. It's like, no, we can't top that. We're out.
That's right. Oh, speaking of sponsorship, I did get a couple of emails from some of the listeners. Just so everybody knows, the Breaking the Barrier coupon code at generationuk.com.au wasn't working for some reason. It's now back up and running. So if you are having any issues, that should be resolved presently.
That's awesome to know. And you can also still use the Breaking the Barrier code at Spartan as well for 10% off Spartan races if they're going ahead. What's the catchphrase for that one, Andrew?
What?
For Spartan races. What do they do to use the Breaking the Barrier code at Spartan?
Oh, Breaking the Barrier is the code. Wait,
just not. I thought it was more exclusive than that.
No, you just use the coupon code Breaking the Barrier for 10% off. You're throwing me off my game here. I don't know what you're asking me. What's happening?
I don't know either. Just fling it around, folks. If you go to anywhere that has a voucher code, just type in Breaking the Barrier. Let's see what happens. Let's get nuts.
Yeah. Maybe you'll get lucky. That's fun. I think the actual slogan of the Spartan races, though, is lift heavy shit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Not above and beyond what you ever thought possible. We've got that one.
No, that's mine.
Good.
They can't have that.
What are we going to talk about today?
Well, we've got a little bit of everything. It's going to be a big sort of kind of COVID-related episode in the sense that Zach and I are going to talk about sort of things either moving ahead or not moving ahead, and that's kind of what we're gearing everything toward today. We're going to obviously catch up with each other about how we're going, but we're going to cover the Melbourne Marathon, the London Marathon, and how they are doing their thing. We're going to talk a lot about parkrun because parkrun's starting back up in certain parts of the world again, not in Victoria. Sorry, spoiler alert, but that's where we're at.
Yeah, unlike the last 20 episodes where we've hardly touched on COVID at all, this might be a COVID-heavy episode because there's been a bit going on. But what also has been going on is people in the Breaking the Barrier community on Facebook have been going above and beyond. And so we've got a couple of shout-outs to lead off with this week.
Absolutely. So who talks first? You talk first? Or me talk
I want to talk first because I want to talk about Debbie.
Okay.
Because I was very impressed by Debbie. So Debbie had this to say in the Facebook community. Yesterday, I ran Scenic Rim Ultra, a local Queensland ultra 65 kilometres. It was a very long and very tough day. Somehow, I managed second place. I never win anything. Great day out. I'll share some pics from the race. Hope everything is going okay. And she did share some pics of the race, and she shared a very impressive trophy for second place.
It's cool, right? She backlit it with a green light, I think.
No. It lights up.
It lights up. Oh, no.
It lights up. It's a trophy that lights up. She won a light-off trophy for coming second. What do you get for first? Like a Zeppelin?
I would imagine at least like a replica of the Starship Enterprise D.
Yeah, to scale. Yeah, amazing. Well done, Debbie. I mean, firstly, the photos looked great. So jealous that up there in Queensland, you're keeping all us Victorians out and you're able to go run your ultras. Yeah. Way to really rub it in. Awesome trophy.
Amazing job. And speaking of ultras, we got Dean, of course. I mean, what would the podcast be without a shout out to Dean? I think nothing.
Starting to feel threatened, Dean. My co-host status is feeling threatened.
I feel like you got some things to worry about because Dean went for I don't think this was a race. He just went for a 70-kilometer run, and he had this to say in the Breaking the Barrier community group. Today, I completed my biggest challenge to date. Just remember, guys, if your heart wants something, your body is more than capable of achieving it. It's your mind you need to convince. Amazing. Dude, that is a meme. That is the cover of a book. That is like a quote.
In a yearbook at the end of year type thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's like, that quote is pretty much what Breaking Barrier is all about. It's like you can do what you want to do. You've just got to go for it. You've got to have that right mindset.
Yeah, it was great. I think Dean did the 70Ks in about 10 hours, but
Mm,
there was a lot of elevation in there. He had a bunch of friends who were helping him do the loops as well. So I'm pretty sure that was the Berry Street run he spoke about a couple of it, or
oh yeah,
last episode when he was
yep,
on with us.
yep,
So well done, Dean. Glad you could make it, and we'll talk about you later in the episode as well, I think.
absolutely. And
And the
finally,
fine.
you go.
You sure?
You're on.
Okay, finally, Vicky had this to say. I finally, after 2 years of training, got under 26 minutes for my 5K time with a 25 minutes and 43 seconds. Was over the moon as genuinely thought it would never happen. Well done, Vicky. Congratulations on that accomplishment. And also a bit of a lesson there for everyone. Not all goals that you want to get under need to be a round number. We tend to
No.
focus on 20 minutes, 25 minutes,
Yeah.
30 minutes. 26 minutes is just as impressive from wherever you started. Take those little wins along
Yeah.
the way. I'm really happy that you managed to hit that milestone.
Absolutely. Welcome to the 25-minute club. That's awesome. Really, really well
Exactly.
done. And it also is another thing to really take note of is that sometimes these goals take a while. Like don't ever forget, everybody, that setting a goal can take a long time. It's not just a question of I'm going to hit this in like a month. Maybe it will, but maybe it won't. You've got to just keep going for it, and eventually, if it's realistic enough, you'll hit it. I
Yep.
mean, don't set your goals too high. Like if you're running a 45-minute 5K, don't try to run a sub 20-minute in 2 months or anything, or but
Yeah.
after time, you'll hit those goals, and that's what consistency will do. If you listen to the last mini episode, it's all about consistency, consistency, consistency.
Yeah. And Vicky, great job. I mean, not just broke under 26 minutes, but got under by 17 seconds. It feels like that's always the case where you're knocking on the door, and then all of a sudden, boosh, you break
That's
through.
it.
And that's
That's it.
great.
And that 17 seconds in a 5K is huge.
That's a lot.
Really,
That's
huge.
that's over 100 meters probably. Yeah, that's really, really good.
Amazing.
So well done, Vicky, Dean, and Debbie for sharing in the community. Everyone else, remember, you can jump onto facebook.com and check out Breaking the Barrier podcast. You can check Andrew out on Instagram and Breaking the Barrier on Instagram. And there's also the Facebook community on groups on Facebook, which if you're not part of, why aren't you? Because we talk about a lot of great stuff there,
Totally.
including some fallout from our episode on Olympic moments in episode 86. We put up a bit of a poll asking people to vote on what they thought was their favourite Olympic moment that we spoke about. But also, we found, Andrew and I, we were talking about the lady who got disqualified in the 50K walk. Mm-hmm. And I completely forgot when I was telling the story that she was Australian. Her name was Jane Seville, and she did it in Sydney, Australia in the 2000 Olympics. And I sent you that footage, and that was a big deal. So apologies, Jane. I didn't remember it because it was probably pretty traumatic and I repressed it. But yeah, that was a massive Olympic moment on the track as well that we didn't talk about.
I guess we would have lost her as a listener after that.
Probably, yeah.
Obviously, she's listening.
And lots of people, when we asked them what was their favourite bit of the Olympics that they missed, just basically recited a whole bunch of Australian stuff. So maybe what we'll need to get people to do is put up their favourite Australian moment, and then you and I can go research them. Yeah. Because like we talked about, every Olympic memory is just amazing. They could make a film about every single one of them. So there's probably some gold in there that we don't know about that we could discover.
Absolutely. I'd love to do it. Let's do it. Let's get crazy.
So what have you been up to? Let's catch up for a second before we jump into some of the other stuff we got to talk about.
Yeah, well, it's kind of been Groundhog Day for me, but in a good way. Like I'm continuing on with my training and my nutrition that I have been. I'm actually at the end of this week. Again, I'm still not running for any longer than 15 minutes a pop, but I am running usually twice a day, 6 days a week. But at the end of this week, I will hit a 14-day running streak. Which I've never
Congratulations.
done before. Thank you. And I know, it's not huge running streak, but I've never run 14 days in a row before. And I think it's kind of cool just to kind of hit that milestone. And it's only
14 days twice a day.
That's 14 days twice a day.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's 28 days.
Technically. And the only reason that I'm kind of hitting that is because I went for a run on Sunday, which I don't. Sunday's normally my day off, which is ironic because Sunday used to be my long run day. And so I was like, you know what? I could take the day off Monday from running, but I was like, nah, I'll just go for my run. I didn't run okay, so technically it's 27 runs because I didn't run this morning, but I ran after my my workout. So yeah, I'm happy about that, and I'm still going with that. I'll start a bulking phase a little bit in
Okay, so
probably.
moving away from the aesthetics toning into something with a bit more
Yeah,
size.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna try to build a little bit more size while keeping my body fat around the same level, which is very tricky to do. So right
Yeah.
now, I've got about a 41 and a half inch chest and a 32 waist. So I'm gonna try to increase the chest and keep the waist the same and increase the broadness of my shoulders. And because, especially with the Melbourne Superman thing that I do,
Mm.
I'm doing a lot of stuff there, and so I want to kind of see what kind of impressiveness, quote unquote, I can have in some of those suits. I'm quite happy with how I look in basically spandex now.
So am I. Yeah.
Thank you. Or
You're
do you mean
welcome.
you're happy with you?
No, I'm happy with the way you look.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Sometimes as I'm drifting off to sleep, I just bring up your Instagram and just, flick through it quietly. Yeah.
that's my boy. I
Yeah.
mean, I won't. I don't. No, I'm not going to
I'm
say
not
that.
the only one.
I know, and I enjoy that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh,
But
can people still vote for you in DC Fandom? Is that still open?
yes, you can still vote for me until I think the 21st. So basically, you
Yep.
just visit my Instagram, the Andrew Lorenzo or Melbourne Superman on Instagram, and click on the link in my bio. Like all those pictures that are in that page, and that's really good. And basically, for those of you who don't know, DC Fandom is basically the 24-hour sort of convention event that DC is doing in light of lockdown and everything. And it's just a great way to get the fans together, get the cosplayers together. There's going to be some amazing announcements, I think, in terms of. I'm really hoping for a Man of Steel 2 announcement. Obviously, the new Suicide Squad game's coming out.
Yep.
The new Batman Gotham Knights game is coming out, and I think Val Kilmer's going to do something because it's been 25 years since Batman Forever.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm just it's all the same thing every day, and I've found my groove, I think, and I've been very lucky to find the workout equipment that I have. But again, for all those listening, you don't need that workout equipment. Like I've been posting a couple things on Instagram, the Breaking the Barrier podcast and Instagram, some workouts you can do that you don't need weights for. Like the last post I did was a leg circuit. You don't really need weights for it. Your legs will go to jelly if you do that circuit with or without weights. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I think I listened to your mini the other day on the rowing machine, and yeah, it was just really talking about embracing the routine and kind of embracing the rut, because a lot of the time the reason why you struggle to make gains is because you don't have that consistent opportunity. Well, we've got nothing else but consistent opportunity right now.
That's right. And you'll find that you'll plateau a little bit every now and then, but when you plateau, that's the most important time to stick with it, because you're gonna get to a point like Zach was saying before. Even if it's something like a run time that you want to get, you're gonna plateau, but you're gonna get to a point where all of a sudden you wake up and you do it, or you wake up and you look different, or you're waking up and you're just lifting heavier weights. It's the plateau. It'll happen, but if you stick with it, that's when the magic happens. Soon after that, as soon as it seems like everything's stopping, that's the most important time to keep going.
That's good. That's awesome. That's really inspiring as well. Yeah, the cosplayers and some of those people put in some amazing work on their physiques. It's not
Dude.
just a bunch of people making costumes and then dressing up and pretend. They are some really impressive physiques on the men and the women. Yeah.
Dude, there's a couple people that I follow that I'm just like in awe of. Like there's this one guy, Super Chris cosplays, and he does this he does a Superman one, but he also does a freaking Wolverine one. And he put out a picture the other day, and oh man, dude, this guy's tank. Like, I mean, he's not huge, but he's ripped, and you're just like, dude, this guy. I mean, if he was an actor, I don't know if maybe he is. You're like, dude, I could see him in that role.
Wow,
Because
that's
they really
awesome.
do. Like I've seen some people do Thor, and like they just really transform into it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's not the sort of days where you can get away with a couple of egg cartons super glued onto your stomach and pretend that they're abs. These guys are doing it for real now and physically working out.
Yeah, and it makes all the difference in the world. And I got to tell you, whether it's a cosplayer that is in incredible shape, or if they're just average or below average, quote unquote, whatever that means to you, it's still just really cool to see people putting themselves out there. That's why I love cosplay, the cosplay world. I love that people put themselves out there with something that they love, and it's something that isn't hurting anybody. It's just, it's good fun. It's innocent fun. Well, some people do post the cosplay that are kind of, rated X kind of thing. But for the most part, it's innocent fun. It's just people wanting other people to feel good about themselves, to see something on Instagram that's positive. That's why I do it. On my world, it's a symbol of hope kind of thing.
Yeah. I was trying to find my way to that joke, but you beat me to it.
Oh, sorry, man. But yeah, so it's, and the people that I'm meeting are they're phenomenal. They're just so nice. They're so nice. They'll reach out to me and message me. And, there are some that that don't cosplay, but are fans of the cosplay that will message, and some that like you kind of have to distance yourself from because, but
Groupies?
For the most part, what's that?
Groupies? Do you have groupies?
I think I might.
Really? Other than me, I mean.
Then no.
Okay, all right, because you got one.
No, yeah, you do get messages, and it's interesting because I have spoken to some of the other cosplayers about that, is that you do get messages from people who are a little bit too eager to get to know you, and you've got to kind of be smart about that. But for the most part, it's just a really cool community to be a part of. And I'm having a lot of fun. Like, and the other part of it is the thing that I'm learning about in Lockdown 2.0 is a little bit more about photography, because obviously I can't go to photo shoots. I have a few photos that are coming out that a photographer did before this all happened, and I'll slowly trickle those through. But for the most part, I'm photographizing. I'm photographing myself.
Photographizing.
I'm photographizing myself.
I'm a photographizer.
That's
yes.
Right. That's what says on my resume. And so I'm learning a little bit more about my camera and about editing software. I don't have anything fancy, but it's just cool to learn about my camera. Like, I took a picture of myself the other day, and I put it on my story, and I was wearing it wasn't a full-on Superman costume. I was just wearing a shirt, and I was just testing out some stuff. And I looked at it, and I was like, not to sound like arrogant or anything, but I looked at this picture, and I was just like, that could be, like, if I wasn't wearing a damn Superman shirt, that I would use that as a headshot, because it's just simple tweaks that I'm learning with my camera.
Well, just Photoshop it out.
Oh, that's a good point. Maybe I could do that. Because it
is 10% of nothing.
Dude, there you go. It is a really good photo. Like, I love it. I'm like, oh man, this is actually awesome. This is a great photo. Like, I sent it to my agent, and I was like, this is a good photo, right?
Please tell me that it looks good. It's
Please give me some validation. Well, she sent me an audition brief today, so there you go.
There we go. That has helped. It must have been that one photo.
I think so. It couldn't have been my talent, obviously.
No. Your words, not mine.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah. So that's that's what's going on with me. I'm learning new things about my body, my nutrition, my training, pushing myself to new limits. 30K dumbbell shoulder presses. Woo!
Yeah, that got some props on the community. I saw lots of people thinking that's crazy.
So excited about that. But yeah, and I'm learning about my camera, and I'm just trying to learn what I can. I've picked a couple of choice things, mostly health related, but also photography related. And, I think everybody would do well to do that. Just pick something that you've always wanted to learn or get better at, and just do it. Because
it's awesome.
We might be out of this thing in a couple months, and great if we are, but you might never get another chance to have this sort of solitude to learn something new again.
Yeah, this dedicated, focused, uninterrupted time to just concentrate. I mean, the myth of 10,000 hours of practice makes you a master is just that. It's a myth, but there is a lot to be said for some hyper-specialization and focus. Totally. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a good time. What are you doing, man? What's going on?
I took today off work, so I decided not to go to work today. I just needed Basically just a mental health break, I think is what I needed. It was just getting really, really tough at work. So I wasn't sick today. I didn't have anything to do. I literally had nothing to do. Like, I had to find stuff to do because I was kind of bored after a while, walking around the house, sticking my head into rooms, asking people what they were up to. And they're like, we have stuff to do today. We didn't take today off. Unlike you, we've got school and work and stuff. So could you just go do something else? So I ended up going for a run and doing some cooking and stuff like that. But it was just, I just needed to have a weekend where I wasn't thinking, like, you spend Saturday unwinding from work, and then you said Sunday winding up for work again. I just needed to get away from that. And there's been a massive push at my work over the last couple of weeks just about the stress of what we're going through, and the fact that we were in lockdown and then we're out of lockdown and then we're back in lockdown even more so than beforehand. And we've spoken to a whole bunch of people at work, and like, well-being and helping people understand the stress of the workload is the number one thing they want to talk about. And we just had a really good chat with my leadership group about we have to practice what we preach. Like, you sometimes, someone comes to you and you sort of say to them, oh, listen, you need to take some time off. You need to take a break. You need to realize this isn't important. It'll be there when you get back to it. And none of us were doing it ourselves. So a whole bunch of us have actually taken some time off over the last week or so. And we'll probably go to a situation where we're taking a day off at least every 3 weeks or 4 weeks just going forward. Because it's the number one thing is that even though we can't travel anywhere and even though we can't go anywhere and holidays are not really the same, just being able to disconnect from work and those days of being locked in a room, it's just really important right now. So yeah, that was what I did today, and I really enjoyed it. I had largely a screen-free day, so I sat down and just read a couple of books. Kept off the computer as much as possible, kept off the phone as much as possible, got outside. During the week, I very rarely go outside during daylight hours. I'm kind of like, I go for my run first thing in the morning, and then I'm inside just working the whole time. So actually going outside in daylight was unique for me.
Man, I'm the same way. Like, probably at least once a day, because obviously, as you know, I've been running on my treadmill a lot. But at least because my backyard, where it is, the location of it, it has some really good sunlight come through at certain times of the day. So I try every day to just go outside for like 5 or 10 minutes, soak up the sun. Because yeah, man, you just need that. And I kind of feel bad now that I've asked you to do this podcast where you are now locked up in a room in front of a computer.
Well, I thought about doing it outside, but it was going to get a little bit too cold, so I decided not to do that. But yeah, so that's just kind of what I really enjoyed that. And for me, that was a real reminder that it doesn't matter whether or not you're an individual or you're someone with a family or whatever you're dealing with. Everyone's going through a bit of stress right now. And as someone who in my role at work, I'm quote unquote paid to handle the stress for others. Like, part of my job is to make problems go away. It just had reached a point where I couldn't make the problem going away. And all last week, I was just feeling very unproductive. I was feeling like I wasn't putting my best self forward. And so I really needed this day off today just to kind of reset and reground and work out what was it that I wanted to do before I go back to work. Because, yeah, I wasn't being very constructive, I think. I was still being effective and I was still getting the job done, but I just wasn't enjoying it. I just needed a break. So, forgiveness, forgive yourself and take a bit of time out was the tip I took from that.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, because, going back to what you said about, holidays and stuff sort of being put on hold, I think that there's a lot of, there is a lot of people absolutely that can't do those holidays, and instead of going on those holidays, they're filling that time up with work that they wouldn't have otherwise done. And so it's going to be really important to take that time off and to really recognize that we have to just deactivate from stress and work and all that. At least, you're right. If only a day, a day can make all the difference in the world every few weeks. If you can take longer than that, take longer than that. But it's absolutely necessary. I've obviously I work from home in terms of my acting and my admin and breaking the barrier, and now 3 podcasts that I'm part of. And the other day I had a chat with the boys for Impulse, and I said, guys, we have been at this for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in each other's ears for the past like year and a half, almost 2 years. Let's take a break, man. And we just decided to take about a week off from Impulse. We'll still post and everything, but we'll just regroup, because I was like, guys, we're going to like burn ourselves out and start hating each other if we don't because yes, this is fun, but it is work.
Yes.
And we don't have anything else to break that up other than having the the good sense to break it up and just realizing when there's a problem, because a lot of people will get to that point not realizing that there's a problem. They'll pass that point and then it's too late and they burn themselves out.
Yeah, and sometimes the most courageous thing or bravest thing you can do is just actually call it. And it wasn't me who even called it in my leadership team. It was a peer of mine who turned around and said, listen, I realise it's short notice, but this stage 4 coming in has just really hit me hard. I'm taking off, I'll be here tomorrow, but then I'm taking off the day after that. Sure. And then she sort of took the time off and then came back and said, I just needed it. She lives by herself. So she was like, I was really feeling it from an isolation perspective. And then someone else was saying, oh, well, I'm really feeling it because I've got the 2 kids at home. And it's just everyone's feeling it now. No one is immune from this. And so we've got a lot of people who had been saving up a whole bunch of leave, waiting to go away and travel. Well, that's not happening. But I think what we're trying to show is that you can still get some value out of just disconnecting, even for 24 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a really important thing.
So, of course, with the day off, what else would I do but enter a race? So I entered a race.
So what's that about? What are you doing there?
So one of my favourite races of the calendar is the Bright Running Festival. So Dean and I talked about it on episode 87, and that's the one that Daryl and I have gone to a couple of times as well. Daryl, the star of episode 77, when we did the Brimbag 50 together. And so the guy running that has gone, well, I can't run a real event, so I'm going to run a virtual event. And I know I poo-pooed virtual events a couple of episodes ago, but this one was just too good to pass up. So he's going to let you run the 25, the 50 or the 100 virtually over 2 weeks, which for us in stage 4 lockdown would be 10 days of 10 kilometres a day or 9 days of 11 kilometres a day or something like that, something staying within our hour. And it's pretty good value. For $45, he'll send you a hat, he'll send you a couple of buffs, he'll send you a medal because he's got all these medals that he got and now he can't use, so you might as well try and give them to some people for a virtual run.
Is that still open?
It's just... Yeah, you can still enter. He only just announced it the other day. Yeah, you should.
Send me the link. I think I might do it.
Well, he does a 50 for $20. So if you want to do the 100, it's $45, but you get a hat and 2 buffs. Yeah. If you just do the 20, you get a buff and a medal delivered, which is pretty good value.
That's awesome. Send me the link, dude. Yeah, I'll do it. And especially, it's a great cause, and we'll put the link in the show notes because that's going to keep him going.
Well, yeah, I think we'll talk about it in a second when we get to Melbourne, exactly how run directors are approaching these races and stuff. But anything we can do to support Richard up in Bright, I'm all for. So I'll send that through. And so it actually motivated me last week to get off my butt and do one of your favourite exercises. I did some Yassos on a Wednesday.
I love Yassos, dude.
I didn't love Yassos after them.
Hard as hell.
They're really hard, yeah. I did a 5K warm-up and then I went and did 4 800s and I had not done speed work for about 3 months and I felt it so bad.
But at a 3:30 pace, that's pretty good.
Well, yeah, I jumped on one of those calculators which said, what's your marathon time? And therefore you should do your Yassos at this pace. And it said about that. So I managed to get to it. But normally I think when I was at the track a couple of months ago, I would have done 6 800s, 8 800s and felt pretty okay. Yeah. I did 4 and I was toast. I was absolutely smoked. I could not believe how unfit I felt compared to what I had been doing a few months ago. It was tough work.
Yassos will do that to you either way because, like I said on the last episode, or 2 episodes ago, Yassos basically you want to work your way up to 10, and if you can keep, you keep that pace. So if you're running a 3:30 800 meter, you're doing that 10 times. Theoretically, that's going to translate into your marathon. So you want to run 3 minutes 30 seconds 10 times and you'll theoretically run a 3 hour 30-minute marathon. But that is it's a tough workout, man.
That was so hard. I'm going to try and add 1 Yasso a week going forward, so 4 5 and try and so 6 weeks from now hopefully I should be at 10, and I'm hoping if I do it that way I'll be able to hold the pace at 3:30. But I was hanging on to that final 3:30 on that 4th one, kind of like Stallone in Cliffhanger, where he's got like the little pinky over the edge of the cliff. I was doing it was so hard.
Man, those are, I remember the last ones that I did before Melbourne last year, and I mean I was in, aside from my knee, I was in probably 3:45 3:50 marathon pace, so I was running 3:40 to 3:50 Yasso, and man, they kicked my ass. But my coach was such a jerk. He's like do a 3-mile warm up, do your Yassos, then like a 3-mile cool down, and I'm just, or 5K warm up. So I'm just like, oh man, I hate you and I hate everything that you stand for.
Well, I had to work that into my, stage 4 COVID restriction. So I did my 5K warm up, and then I went there and did it as hard as possible. And then, I was just glad that I got through it without my adductor or my glutes or anything playing up, because, it's been about 6 weeks now since I last had that adductor problem, and I think it's all good. So,
well, you picked a hell of a workout to do your first speed workout in a while.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to do 300s or anything like that, so I just went to the local oval and cut some laps. And yeah, it was tough, but it felt good. It felt good being able to say that I did it. Just now that I've put it on the podcast, I have to do it again, I guess.
Indeed. And you have to do one more every week. Yeah, so that's happening.
Yeah.
Good luck to you.
So something else that's been happening, which I might need luck with, I went on social media last week, Andrew.
Man, I saw that.
You might have noticed.
You have a set, man. You that was a mind-blowingly ballsy thing that you posted, and it was just great. The response.
Go above and beyond what you ever thought possible. I decided to, for those of you I don't know, I'll tell the story and then you add some exaggeration. And if I get dragged out of this room because there's a big group of people with flaming torches and pitchforks, you'll know what it's about. So I'm a member, we're both a member of a closed Facebook group called Victorian Ultra Runners, or VUR, which are a good bunch of guys, and you see them at a whole bunch of the events and that sort of stuff. And a lot of them during this COVID crisis have been doing things like posting photos of them doing real backyard ultras, like people running marathons in their backyard, or ultra marathons in their backyard. And they've got this whole thing about, I think John, who organises the group, they're at day 127 of a run streak now, where a whole bunch of people have been getting out and doing at least 3Ks a week for 3Ks a day for at least 127 days. And lots of other people post a whole bunch of different challenges. And so I thought, all right, cool, long time lurker, I might post something in this. All good ideas start with, all bad ideas start with good intentions, Andrew.
Yeah.
And so I decided to post something which I called the COVID closest to the pin challenge. And the whole idea was we get an hour a day to run now. I took my 7 days worth of running for the preceding 7 days, and I said, oh, look, here's what I managed to do in 7 days. I ran 75.4 kilometers, but it took me 7 hours and 4 seconds. So my total for the week was 7 hours and 4 seconds of running. So I propose that we all try and run as close to 7 hours as we can, but for every second you go over, you lose 200 meters. So my 75.4 actually turned into 74.6 because I was 4 seconds over. That means I lost 800 meters off my total. Innocent post. Let's get a whole bunch of people putting together. A little bit of a humble brag there. Look at me, I ran 75 Ks in a week. But also just a little bit of like, I knew there's better runners out there, and straight away someone came back and said, well, I did 86 kilometers. So I knew that there would be someone who would do better. But that was my idea of coming up with a little challenge to contribute to the group. And I posted a screenshot of my 7 individual runs.
Oops.
And that's what made the some members of the group lose it. And maybe you want to take over the story at this point and see what you saw.
Okay, so I saw this post when Zach posted it, and I didn't. I'll admit I didn't get it at first. I was like, "What the hell is he? What is this? What does he mean?" And then I looked at the times, and I was like, "Oh shit, okay." And then so just okay. Look. Okay, I'm all about following the rules, right? Like, we got to stick to the hour, but some of these people are like really high horse. Like a minute, look, I don't think a minute's going to freaking kill you.
Some of my times were over an hour. That's the long and the short of it. I had one of my times was an hour, 1 minute and 40 seconds.
That was the longest over an hour that you went. I think that's pretty harmless. Like, I get we need to set the example, but there were people saying stuff like, I'm not sure I agree with what you're doing. You've broken the rules. Somebody else said, I agree with that. You've broken the rules. Maybe your intention's not bad, but you have broken the law. And it's like, okay, fair, but calm. And then other people are like chiming in, gee, leave the guy alone. He's a couple minutes over it. Like, I can guarantee no one's dying. You know, and then somebody else put, a minute over is very different from like a 2-hour bike ride, which I've seen people doing.
Yes, we'll talk about that.
I think, look,
It's changed my running this week, Andrew. I'll be honest. I've been so paranoid about going over an hour this week. I've done a whole bunch of 59 minutes and 45 seconds.
Well,
but yeah, I'm doing laps up and down my street now rather than risking a detour.
Yeah, and it's a dangerous thing because I'm now seeing people take to Facebook and say,
yes, that's a bigger conversation.
I've seen people on Strava breaking the rules, and I'm seeing people comment, "Oh, what are their names? We want names." And I'm like, well, hang on, stop posting this shit, because now all of a sudden you're going to start posting names and you're going to name shame people and you're going to breed this really dangerous environment where we it's just something that we don't need. Like, first of all, don't post anybody's name on social media. It's not cool. Like, if they're breaking the law, if they're really breaking the law and you're that concerned about it, call somebody that will be able to handle it. Call the authorities, but don't be name shaming people, because you're going to create animosity. And I tell you what, I wouldn't put it past certain people to really do some negative shit. And
well, I mean, there's been a whole bunch of reports about influencers online, like people who are Instagram influencers who have a whole bunch of followers going out there and, doing workouts with friends in gyms that they shouldn't be doing, or signing up for challenges where they have to do a certain amount of kilometers and they're going out multiple times a day, or blatantly doing 2-hour walks, 2.5-hour walks or bike rides. Like, there absolutely are some people who are, way going over the limit. Yeah. We're not talking about, a minute here or a minute there. We're talking about, blatant rule breaking. And this is one of the threads you and I saw the other day was, someone saying, hey, what should we do about this person? Should we report them? A lot of people were just like, hey, if it's in your Strava feed and it's bothering you, just don't follow them.
Just don't follow them.
That's probably the easiest thing to do.
That's the easiest thing to do. And it's going to create less animosity. If you want to report them, report them. Don't tell anybody their names. But, it's just... oh man, I was going to say something and now I've lost it because I'm so angry. But there's just...
Because someone said to me, oh, you've just willingly broken the law this week and now posted it on a closed Facebook group where the police could find you. Don't think they're not lurking. Now, first of all, I didn't willingly break the law. I'm a bloody stupid rubbish estimator. And so I mistimed my runs. Yeah. Like, half the time I was late is because I got held up by traffic lights. It's not that I was out there deliberately. I just can't time.
Guess what? Facebook freaking warrior, let me see exactly what you do every day, and if you're not breaking any rules, then and only then will I allow you to touch on my life. Like,
I found the one Facebook thread, Andrew, where no one makes any mistakes, so I was unlucky with that.
Exactly. It's like, exactly. He who is without sin can cast the first stone. Just
you could build a book around that. That's good.
I reckon. I reckon. But just like, do you really have nothing better to do? And again, I can't stress this enough.
People don't have anything better to do.
Like, I'm like, yes, let's follow the rules. Like, keep it under the hour. Like, Zach, slap on the wrist, bad boy. You know what you did. But it's not the end of the world. It's a minute.
It felt like the end of the world.
Like, you had a good intention to help people get healthy, and it's just, people, like, just, if that's all you're gonna do is complain, go to confession or get a dog. I don't know why I'm going religious in this podcast. I'm not really.
Why you can put the poor dog through this?
I don't know, because, like, get somebody that you can talk to other than Facebook. Like, I mean, if you were going a half hour over the hour, I'd be like, yo, Zach, like, we should probably, let's have an interruption here. But like, a minute, I don't think. And I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, I did it one time this week. One time I went over by 8 seconds. So I ran an hour and 8 seconds, and I felt horrible. I walked back in and said to my wife, well, I can't post that this week. There goes that.
Well, you've just spoken about it. And now you've just incriminated the podcast, so I guess that makes me...
I mean, I'm a repeat offender now. This is... good. Maybe I could blame you and I could be the patsy.
Great. Well, you're the producer. You're the one who has all the ideas.
Yeah, but you edit this thing. No, you don't edit this thing. You just chuck it up there.
Not anymore.
It's al natural.
That's right.
But people are posting stuff on Facebook all over the place. Like, what was the one we saw about the masks the other day?
Oh, yeah. Basically, they're saying something about gators not being effective.
Yeah, there was
Um,
they did a research article on how to test masks.
yeah.
So it was like, how are we going to test masks? And so they did a research article where they had grabbed a whole bunch of masks and they tested them to see whether masks were effective or not.
Mm,
What got drawn from the study was that buffs or gaiter masks that you kind of like, slick put all the way around your neck and then just pull over your nose and face
yeah.
aren't effective. In fact, the study or the headlines suggested that they were worse than wearing no mask at all. The whole theory being that when you wear a mask with multiple layers, it gets through one layer, but then it hits the other layer and eventually it stops. Whereas these gaiter masks or buffs tend to be one layer. And what they do is they take large particles and actually spread them into smaller particles. And so the way that the research was interpreted was if you wear one of those gaiter masks, you're basically just misting and spraying everywhere.
Right.
And that research was shared everywhere for the last week or so. But it's come out in the last 24 hours or 48 hours that it was completely disproven.
That's right. And
Yeah.
people are and here's the thing with any kind of research, with especially COVID, it's changing rapidly because we don't know. We're constantly sharing it. So what I'll say to you, everybody, is take anything that you read on Facebook and social media with a grain of salt. Like and don't share information. Like I really recommend sharing any kind of quote unquote crucial research because you probably don't you can't back it up other than the website you're reading, and it's just contributing to sharing the wrong stuff. And again, it's creating animosity because somebody reads that and then they go and see somebody who's running with a gator, and all of a sudden you've got some people trash talking and hate mongering. I just saw a post in the Victorian Ultra Runners, actually, funnily enough, today.
Oh, really?
This lady said, "What do I do?" I think it was a lady or a guy, one of them, and they were just like, "What do I do?"
There's more than two options there, but yeah. Chances are, yeah.
What do I do if somebody I'm running without a mask and they start yelling at me? And I'm just like,
oh, really?
Yeah, and that's probably somebody who hasn't done their research. As in, the person yelling is probably somebody who hasn't done their research or has read something silly, and is all of a sudden creating a negative environment, and that shit is going to breed some serious poor decision making, I think.
Yeah. Everyone's under a lot of stress right now, and the closed, because remember, everything that you get through your social media is based on an algorithm. So if you click on something, they're going to suggest 10 more things that are like that, and next thing you know, you're going to find yourself in that social media bubble where all you're doing is consuming stuff that feeds something that you've already read before. So you've got to be really careful about that, people.
And believe it or not, your phone listens to you when you speak. If you speak about something and you open Facebook and there's an ad about the thing that you were speaking, that's not an accident. It's not coincidence.
No.
That's thing that the microphone picks up certain voice patterns. And if you're talking about stuff like this, you're going to start seeing those articles, and you've got to be really careful. I mean, not every article is fake, of course, but just if it's research based, don't share it on Facebook because chances are it's it's fairy dust,
exactly,
or it's going to be fairy dust within a couple of days. There you
go. Some people who would have benefited from doing some research before putting something on social media would be the organisers of the Melbourne Marathon. Here we go. He's made an angry face. The 2020 Melbourne Marathon. Let me set the scene, Andrew, and then I'll clear out for you. They put a post up last week talking about how they were still assessing how the race, the Melbourne Marathon in the middle of October, could still go ahead. This is after the point of no return for entrance. If you've entered the Melbourne Marathon, you can't withdraw and get your money back. It's all kind of sunk cost now. So you're in the whims of whatever decides to happen there with virtual runs or deferral. Yeah. The other thing is, it's only 7 weeks away from the date that this run is meant to happen. If you're training for a marathon, it's too late to start training for a marathon now. And we can't train for a marathon because in Melbourne we're in stage 4 lockdown, and no one's coming to Melbourne anyway because we're in stage 4 lockdown. What are you doing, Melbourne Marathon run directors? This is where the pendulum starts to move from the sympathy we felt for people trying to run events and trying to do the run things to now, I don't know, why haven't they just called it?
Oh man, Here's what the website says. In light of the stage 4 COVID-19 restrictions currently in place for Melbourne metropolitan areas and the continued health concerns regarding coronavirus, we are reviewing plans for the 2020 Melbourne Marathon Festival scheduled for Sunday, 4th October. What more do you have to review? I mean, we're not going to be out of
this. The plans are on fire.
I know.
The plans are in a dumpster fire right now.
It's blowing my mind. Like, I mean, by the time we're out of this lockdown, this state of emergency, whatever they decide to do with it, whether they decide to write a new law and extend it past the 13th, like you're coming out of this 3 weeks before the thing when people are tapering.
Yes.
And you're expecting to have a decision then? Like, what?
It is not physically possible for anyone in Melbourne right now to train for this thing unless they are someone who wants to go onto a treadmill for 2 to 3 hours a day, which there was an article in the paper the other day where they spoke to a marathon about that, like a really good marathon runner, and he was like, no one wants to do that. No. Like, not even the most nutty hardcore marathon runner wants to sit on a treadmill for 3 hours, and I tell you what, 2 times a week.
That's how you get injured. Training for a marathon on the treadmill is how you get injured, because it doesn't prepare your body for anything other than a flat surface that doesn't give at all.
It would be irresponsible for them to get that many people together, and it would be irresponsible for them to let people run a marathon because no one's ready for it right now. Physically, we're not ready.
And like, I get it. You can't refund anything because if you do, I mean, you've already paid for this stuff, I'm sure. But freaking save the people the overtraining, because if you're going to quote unquote postpone it, tell them now so they can.
You can't cram for a marathon.
Yeah, it's like, what are you going to postpone it by 3 months, 4 months, and all of a sudden you've got these people training for this marathon with barely any time after the date to actually recover from all this long distance running. What the hell, Melbourne Marathon?
Plus, the logistics of 25,000 people being in the same space right now just doesn't feel very comfortable.
Not possible. It's just not, like, it's so stupid. It's just, I don't understand what the mindset is behind that at all. Like, it's just comical. It's like, are you serious?
Yeah. Like everyone's like, it's not going to happen, guys. You're going to have to call it. And call it.
I just feel bad for the people who go onto the Melbourne Marathon group on Facebook and they're like, what do you think is going to happen? It's like, what do you think is going to happen? what?
I refer to you Exhibit A, the dumpster fire that has the plans for this year's event in it.
Exactly. It's like, what? Oh, Daniel Andrews hasn't said anything. What the hell do you think he's going to... You think he cares about the Melbourne Marathon right now? No, he's looking at the bigger picture. What do you think is going to happen? Use your head.
Daniel Andrews,
3 feet above your ass.
Daniel Andrews is out there every day praying for rain so that people will stay at home. He's actively said that. He's like, oh, damn it, it's a good day today. People are going to go outside and be stupid and we'll be stuck in stage 4 for another 2 weeks. Like, he doesn't want that. It's a really hard job for him right now. He hasn't taken a day off in 50 days, rocking up and doing a 4-hour press conference every day. The dude needs a break. The dude needs to do what I was talking about before and just take a day off and let someone else look after things.
God forbid he does that. You know, everybody hates him right now anyway. I think, you know, I have no grudges against the guy. He's doing the best he can. Like, who could do better? No one, because nobody's ever had to. So, but God forbid he does take a day off or is seen relaxing for a second because, you know, he's not allowed to, because God forbid.
Yeah. It's not hard to get it right, what Melbourne... Like, so, for instance, London Marathon came out this week and explained very, very clearly what they're doing with their event, which is they're not having it, basically. Yeah. The London Marathon will not go ahead for the general public. The London Marathon will run with an elite field only, and it's going to be done on a closed course. So they've picked a place in London called Kings Park, I believe, and they've come up with a 1.5 mile, 2 kilometre loop of that course. And it will be run just there. So they're going to cut, I don't know how many loops that would be, 26 loops, I guess, or 20 loops of this course. But you're going to see Eliud Kipchoge run, and you're going to see Ethiopian Kenenisa Bekele.
Yep.
We'll go with that.
That was actually, I think that's pretty close.
Kenenisa Bekele, yeah.
Because I've heard Marathon Training Academy pronounce it, and they must be right.
All right, cool. Well, they'll do that then. So they're going to run against head-to-head on a biosecure closed course. So no spectators, no traffic, and them just cutting loops. Could someone get lapped? on this? I understand we're talking about a closed field of the best marathoners in the world, but
I mean,
could someone get lapped on a 1.5K course?
it raises a good point because a lap. I mean, really, in the overall picture of marathon, a 2 kilometer lap is not a lap,
No.
and I think that that's going to really take some mental prowess to do that. And I think we're going to find slower times. I think we're going to find that some of these guys sort of back off a little bit, and maybe we see somebody get lapped because I think that's I mean, a marathon is a mentally challenging thing
Yeah.
in and of itself. And I think with that added onto it, with no spectators and no atmosphere, I think we're going to see some interesting things.
I mean, a 2 kilometer lap for these guys, we're talking between 6 and 7 minutes. It's not probably, in fact, not even that long, probably between 6 and 6.5.
Yeah.
So if someone runs a 2 hour 5, then someone that's running a 2 hour 15, 10 minutes slower is going to get
We're
lapped.
going to get lapped.
So, yeah, we could absolutely see that happening. It's also interesting because although restrictions are slightly different in other places of the world, they were saying that a lot of the really elite runners haven't been able to get their same training in. They haven't been able to get their same squads across. So they don't think that we're going to see people suddenly going out there and, challenging the world record. Even if you said, well, it's a completely closed course, we're not going to have to worry about so much variability in terms of terrain and twists and turns. This is going to be a tight one. They're going to be looping the whole way.
I think my prediction is that Bekele wins 2:07.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Based on?
Just a gut. I think Elliot Kipchoge probably. Hey, I have a feel like I don't think he's going to go out there and take it easy, but I think he's maybe going to go out there and have a little fun. And I don't know that it's going to be that important for him to win it just because of what he's done in the past couple of years. Not saying that it's not important for him to win it, but I feel like I don't know. It's just I have a gut feeling that says Kipchoge is not going to win.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see if someone else can sort of come through this training and maybe a young up-and-comer who isn't as disrupted by everything because he's never had to do it before, might be able to pop something out. I'll also be interested, of course, to see how many of the athletes are wearing the Vaporflies. Are we saying 85%, 90% of them will be wearing the Vaporfly?
I reckon 90%.
Yeah. So on Shoe Watch, so that's going to be October the 4th is the date that's happening. So
same day as
I'll check that out.
Melbourne Marathon.
As was meant to be, yeah.
Is it always?
I think it might be close, actually. Yeah. I remember, I think I remember,
How dare they? London, for those of you who don't know, of course, is a world major marathon. So
yes, it's one of the big ones. All right, and then probably the last thing we wanted to talk about was the return of parkrun. There is very small light at the end of a very long tunnel about what the return to parkrun. But look, over the last 2 weeks or so, the CEO of Parkrun, Tom Williams, has been sharing what the framework is for the return of parkrun. He's not saying when parkrun will return, but he's talking about how parkrun will return. And this is for when parkrun has to return under a COVID situation. This isn't when quote-unquote normal parkrun returns. When normal parkrun comes back, it's back to normal parkrun. But whilst we're operating in a COVID situation, they've given some guidelines on how that should work. So there's been a whole bunch of articles published and a couple of interviews he's done, which I've listened to. The takeaway from this, the thing that I found the most interesting about this entire thing, his dad is an epidemiologist.
Okay.
Can you imagine that in terms of a guy who has to think about how he's going to bring back a global phenomenon? Oh, just go ask Dad. Yeah, Dad might have something to say on this.
Convenient. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Well,
so
it's just it's an interesting because I was having to read through the and I of course I had to listen to the podcast of it. And it's interesting. It's kind of like all the things that make parkrun are kind of going to have to just chill out. Like, we all have fun at the briefings, which are usually 10, 15 minutes long. They want to keep them, under 2 minutes or something?
Under 2 minutes. There's a script now. They must be under 2 minutes. Yeah.
They're going to back away from parkrun tourism, which is, of course, a big deal. It's just, you can't high five anybody, of course. Tokens are going to
No,
be a problem.
yeah, they're going to change the way that they have the barcode scanning. So they're going to say they're going to have a barcode scanner for every 50 competitors now.
Yeah.
So on some of the big events, like Albert Park here in Melbourne was getting about 1,000 people.
Mm.
So you're going to need 20 people scanning barcodes, and it is going to be. It feels like whilst we're operating under COVID restrictions, it is going to be get in. 2-minute briefing on the course. The second the fastest person puts their toe on the line, off they go. And at the end of the race, thank you very much. Here's your token. Get it scanned, and then get out of here.
Yeah.
That community spirit of parkrun is going to be very curtailed when it comes back under a COVID situation.
Yeah, because we've all gone to park. Like, I'll run my park run and however long I run it. But before and after park run, I probably spend just as much time there as I do while I'm running, because you're there 10-15 minutes early, you're talking to everybody, and then when you're done running, you stay maybe 10 or 15 minutes, sometimes longer, and just shoot the breeze with anybody else is there, or just wait at the finish line, or even sometimes go back out on the course and encourage
do a
people
cool down or a second lap or something.
Nope, that's not going to be chilling.
No. So in this framework that they're returning to, I mean, at the point of time that they did it, it didn't apply to New Zealand, because New Zealand at the time was cured. And so it applied to all other 21 countries that have parkrun. But in the last week or so, COVID has re-emerged back in New Zealand. So it would be interesting to understand if they then got included in this framework going forward. Listening to Tom Williams, the CEO, talk about it, he sounded very conflicted. It feels like the parkrun community is right down the middle in terms of what they want to happen right now. Some people are saying this framework is not enough. Other people are saying it's too much. A lot of people are telling them that they want to return to parkrun, but an awful lot of people are telling them they don't feel safe yet. It feels like all of the surveys they've done, it is right down the middle. It's 50-50 as to whether or not people want it to come back yet. Are they ready for it to come back? Do they want it back with these sorts of restrictions, or would they rather it go away forever until it can come back in a completely quote-unquote normal way? It's very interesting the way that the community is responding, because I always assume, it's a whole bunch of crazy runners. All the crazy runners will want to just come back and do it. But then I think about what I was talking about 10 minutes ago. I don't want to go do Melbourne Marathon with 20,000 people right now. There's no way I want to go near that. So why would I want to go to my park run in one of Melbourne's, at the time, most infected areas with COVID? Maybe a park run in my local area isn't that safe either, even though it's only 150 people.
Yeah, it's tricky. And I think no matter what, they'll bring it back. They will, do it. And while we're restricted in what we can do, I think it's probably a good thing that the park runners are split down the middle, because the people who want to go will go. The people who don't won't. And by nature of that, we're going to have smaller park run numbers for a little while. And I think that's probably a good thing. I don't know. I don't know if I will go right away. I probably won't. Just because I'll want to see how it goes. I'll feel it out. I'll support anybody who wants to, but I don't know that I would right away.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the line as well. I don't want to spend my entire life waiting for a vaccine, and I don't want to rush out there and catch it so I can get it over and done with.
Exactly.
So I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, it's like, where do you draw the line? And it's tough. I kind of hope that there's something to this Russian vaccine.
But I mean, do you really want to trust a vaccine that's been rushed through production? So there's that as well. So I don't know. I don't want to put my life on hold for the next 18 months, but at some point you're going to have to go, well, I guess this is it for me. This is the risk factor I'm willing to accept. Yeah. It's astonishing for me, because I reflect, what are we now, August? 5 months ago, I was talking about, the safest place I could be right now with a pandemic going on is on a beach in Thailand somewhere. And that was my mindset, is that I was going to go do that. Well, geez, I would not even be thinking about that right now. I'd be writing off. I was really worried about losing my tourist dollars. I'd be writing that off right now to get rid of the risk. So that's what I've learned in 6 months.
It's crazy. Big mindset shift in the past 6 months with everything. It's funny going back to our first couple of podcasts when this was all going down. I think we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago. Is that we just didn't know it was we didn't know what was coming. It was kind of still, I mean, we still have fun about it. We still have to see the humor and everything, but we were much more jokey joke about it.
Oh yeah,
Because
we told people to calm down.
Yeah.
It was. Remember, we were all fussing about toilet paper. Remember those days?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just unreal. But I think, I mean, I've seen, again, not to throw research out there because, but I've seen some people say in the government's health organizations that we have seen the peak of it. What that means, I don't know. How they can suss that, I don't know. What they base that on, I don't know. But you just hope. You hope.
Yeah. The big one is still the mystery transmissions. So the fact that the number of people are spreading it to less people, but the number of people who are catching it from mystery sources is still way too high, I think.
I still think that there's a little part of the positives that aren't really, because they're getting, I mean, look, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but in the States, hospitals are getting X amount of dollars for every positive case and X amount of dollars for every person that dies because of COVID. I guarantee that some of these numbers are being fudged. I don't know if it's that many, but I'm willing to bet that not saying that it's not a big deal. This is a big deal, but I'm willing to bet that there are some numbers that are being fudged for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Still, though, take precautions because it is real.
Wash your hands, 1.5 meters. Don't go visit people. It is still out there. And I just want to go for a long run. God, I can't.
I want to see my parents. I want to go back to the States, visit LA.
Is that the first thing you'll do?
I think so. As soon as I can, I'm gonna head back to the States and visit my parents because, I feel bad for them because this is, and I feel bad for a lot of people in that age bracket because they're in the twilight of their lives. They're in their 70s. I mean, they're young 70s, right? But you don't want to be spending the last years like this
alone. Yeah.
And I certainly don't want them to go through. I certainly don't want to not. It's just weird to me in an extreme. The last time I saw them could have been the last time. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But when you start thinking about that, it's just like, oh, that's scary. But that's why you start hanging on to the positives, the hope, the Groundhog Day, the positivity that we can get out of this. I think is a really important thing to hold on to.
That's, I think, a good tone to finish on.
I reckon.
The S stands for hope.
That's right.
So thanks, everyone, for listening to Andrew and I today on the podcast. I hope you got a little bit out of it. Remember, check us out on the socials, jump on the community. If there's anything you want to see or hear us talk about, let us know. We're here to serve and protect. That's not our saying, is it? That's someone else's saying.
That's the NYPD or something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good on them too.
Well, I mean, I think they've been disbanded, so we can take it.
Done. It's up for, if they didn't trademark it and they let it lapse, that's fine. We're taking that one.
It's up for grabs.
Awesome.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for listening to the Breaking the Barrier podcast. I've been Andrew.
I've been Zach.
And this has been the podcast to help you go above and beyond what you ever thought possible. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next time.
I did the wind up a little too early then.
Oh, that's all right. I forgive you.